What's up everyone, my name is Alpha and today we're back with another Pokemon challenge video. Today we're on Pokemon Radical Red and today's challenge we're going to do another monotype wheel. We're almost done. I actually mapped it out. It's going to take me about into the first 2 weeks of January. So we're going to be done with this challenge and then I'm going to run out of things to do on Radical Red. But before we get into that, our monotype for this playthrough will be Steel types. So I'm a little worried because I did do a playthrough earlier. I was trying to test trial it and I was not having a great time doing it. So I'm going to be a little hesitant with this one because I know there's some great Pokemon in the end game, but in the early games and the mid game, I'm really worried about how this can transpire. But before we get into that, I want to explain to the viewers that don't know that we're playing on Pokemon Radical Red, which is a ROM hack of Pokemon Fire Red. It has a very difficult mode. In general, it's extremely hard AIs that read your input too. That's kind of annoying, so you have to outthink them. You also can't use items inside a battle. You play on set mode, all the really difficult things. On top of that, they also give advantages to the NPCs and trainers in the game and give you a lot of disadvantage, like not allow you to do setup moves in hardcore mode. So it's gonna be really interesting. But besides that, a fun rule that I implemented in each of my challenge videos, each of my Pokemon will be nicknamed after you guys in the comments. So thank you so much for leaving a nickname in my previous challenge video. If you guys want to be nicknamed after your future Pokemon, just drop in the comments and hopefully I'll pick yours. And while you're down there, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Anyways, let's get into the challenge video itself. So firstly, we're going to get our starter Pokemon, which is going to be a Piplup because I think it's the only starter Pokemon that eventually becomes a Steel type. I'm not going to use it at the moment. I'm just going to go out and catch a few Pokemons first. So obviously, we want to get ourselves a Dexnav and then catch Burmy so we can evolve it into a Wormadam. I forgot, in Radical Red, you actually don't evolve it by going in specific locations to change its form. You have to catch it while it's in a specific form and then evolve it. So we have to go into nighttime and get ourselves the Steel Burmy and evolve it into a Steel Wormadam. We also get ourselves an Alolan Sandshrew and also an Alolan Meowth, which is going to be really cool. From there, we're going to move out and face off against the first few NPC trainers in here. And they're pretty easy as we got a pretty good Steel type team. I forgot to use Sandshrew in my trial run, so it's actually easier than I expected. So the first portion of the game is a lot easier than how I ran it in a test stage. From there, we're going to move out and face off against this bug type trainer, which isn't too difficult. We're able to eventually knock him out. And once we get into Pewter City, there's some Pokemon in the Diglett Tunnel, of course, that we can get. We also go into this Egg Merchant, and the best Pokemon I can get that's a Steel type is going to be Aron, which I guess is alright. But anyways, from there we're going to actually take our Pokemon and we're going to move out into the museum where we're going to face off against Faulkner and his flying type Pokemon, which we have a pretty decent, well, we almost choked. But looking up our Alolan Diglett is part Steel and ground types, able to knock him out and we're able to beat down Faulkner. From there, we have access into the first gym leader in the game. We're going to face off against Brock. Brock's going to be the first gym leader in the game, and we're going to start the battle off against him using my Alolan Sand. Against his Hippopotas, he's going to switch out into his room next, and then I got to switch out into my Bronzor, which has Heat Proof. So he's kind of useless. I put the room to sleep, and I switch out into my Diglett at least, and then I can do some chip damage against the Arcan, but it's going to knock out my Bronzor. I go out into my Diglett once again. I catch the Cacnea with a Rock Blast, so it doesn't do a lot of damage, so I got to go out to my Wormadam. I'm eventually able to knock out the Cacnea. The Lunatone comes out next. I'm able to Struggle Bug into it and 3-shot it. From there, his next Pokemon will be an Arcan, which again, my Wormadam goes crazy, knocks out the Arcan for us, and does a little chip damage against the Leap. From there, I can go out to my Aron against the Leap and then go for Metal Claw, eventually knock out the Leap for us because there's no stalling me. I'm able to knock out the Leap and also knock out the Hippopotas to low HP. From there, it's just going to waste a bunch of turns with Slack Off. Eventually knocks me out. I go out into my Diglett to knock him out with a Magnitude and also knock out his room. And we're able to beat down Brock pretty easily. Now from there, we're going to move on into the route right next to Mount Moon, which is going to be Route 4. We're going to face off against this trainer, which has a Flying Pikachu, Mallow, a very annoying team. But we're able to beat her down, and then from there, we can move out, catch some new Pokemon. I will catch yourself a Rookidee, a Riolu, which can evolve into a Lucario soon, and also a Tinkatink, which is going to be really cool. I really love Tinkatuff and its evolutionary line. From there, we can move out and face off against the scientists in Mount Moon, which kind of annoying. We have Steel type Pokemon and a lot of them are just kind of resistant, and also the Sableye burns a lot of my Pokemon. It really would test my patience, I'm not gonna lie. But from there, we're gonna face up against Archer, which isn't too difficult of a fight. We have a bunch of good Steel type Pokemon which we pretty much destroyed. From there, here's a little PC check. There's a roster update. We got a bunch of cool Pokemon on our team. We kind of keep Pawnier. Pawnier is going to be really good later on though. From there, we can clear through the Nugget Bridge and also get ourselves the SS ticket. We also faced up against this Team Rocket member, not because he's useful at all, but because he's guarding another item we want, which is going to be the Bodos TM. We also want to get that and move back and face off against Misty, the second gym leader in the game. We're going to start the battle off against her using my Lucario against her Politoed. I can two-shot it with my Thunder Punch, which I do, which is pretty sick. From there, her next Pokemon will be a Ludicolo, which I kind of stayed in. I don't know why, I just kind of through right there. So I got into my Wormadam next. Wormadam's able to pivot right into the Mantine, which, you know, is pretty scripted at this point. I'm able to self-destruct and knock out the Mantine with a crit, which I'm not sure if it mattered or not. From there, I could go out to my Berserker, which will Metal Burst and knock out the Starmie. I'm going to let the Ludicolo knock out my Berserker as I go out to my Wormadam. Wormadam's able to knock him out with a Metal Burst, which is nice. From there, her next Pokemon will be a Toxicroak, which I go out into my Galarian Stunfisk, which you won't see again. But I made a two-shot into the Toxicroak, right? No, I can't. This thing was useless. I go out to my Dugtrio, which will knock him out with a Bodos, and her final Pokemon will be a Clodsire, which I two-shot with a Bodos, and then she tries to knock me out with a Bodos, but I end up knocking out the Clodsire. And from there, we can move on into the SSN, which this fight got a little scrappy. I think it took me like 30 minutes to face off against this trainer, this water trainer on the SSN. It's really difficult. We have an Excadrill, which is going to be fun. We're going to use it a few times, but we also got a Napoleon, which we use against our rival as well. We cleared through our rival pretty easily, and now we face up against the easiest gym leader we had, which is going to be Lieutenant Surge. We're going to start the battle off against Lieutenant Surge using my Lucario. Lucario one-shots into the, well, not one-shots, but Force Pump, and then Mach Punch would knock out the Rotom Frost. From there, you can switch out into his Electrode, which I take a Chloroblast and then knock him out with a Force Palm and Mach Punch. Again, from there, his next Pokemon will be a Raichu, which I could have gone for a Mach Punch here, but decided to go for an Earthquake with my Excadrill and then go back out into my Lucario to sack it, and then use my Dugtrio to knock him out with a Sucker Punch. His next Pokemon will be a Palnot, which I let him knock out my poor Dugtrio as I go out to my Tinkaton, which will Play Rough and knock out the Palnot. His next Pokemon will be an Ampharos, which I go for a Play Rough. I survive a Focus Blast because this thing is so sick. I love this thing. Play Rough to knock out the Ampharos, and his final Pokemon will be Hitmonlee, which I survive a close combat as I go for Baby Doll Eyes to lower his attack. And then from there, I go out to my Bronzor, which will knock out the Hitmonlee. As we're ready to beat down Lieutenant Surge, get ourselves the third gym badge in the game, and move out into the Rock Tunnel, face off against the Sunny Day Trainer, which surprisingly wasn't too tough since we have a bunch of Pokemon with a bunch of priority moves. So we have to get through this trainer pretty easily. And then from there, we could face off against this Hisuian trainer. This Hisuian trainer blocking our road into Celadon City. We're able to clear him down pretty easily and then move out into Celadon City, where we're going to remake our rosters for Erica, of course, which we have a lot of great Pokemon, as you can see. We take the time to evolve a lot of our Pokemon as well, and from there we're going to move on and face off against Erica. We're going to start the battle off against Erica using my Durant. Durant's able to Iron Head and flinch the Cradily, and then just deny rocks entirely. Her next Pokemon will be a Hawlucha, which I go for an Iron Head as it goes for a Swords Dance, and I go out to my Lucario, which was a bad play. Then I go out to my Durant again, because normally this thing could survive one close combat, so I'm not too sure why I switched out. But I'm able to go for an Iron Head and knock out the Hawlucha. Her next Pokemon will be the Kartana, which I sack my Durant to and then go out to my Magnezone. It does have Sturdy, so I'm able to go for a Discharge and survive a Sacred Sword as it goes for Swords Dance for some reason, and I'm able to knock him out. From there, her next Pokemon will be a Mega Sceptile, which would knock out my Magnezone, but I do have a Bronzor, which I put Hypnosis on the Sceptile, and then just full predict the Slowbro coming out, and then go out to my Togedemaru. Togedemaru is able to nuzzle into it and start flinching down the Slowbro into his low HP, and then I could switch out into my Bronzor, which will knock out the Toxicity as he goes out to his Slowbro once again. Gets a little annoying, he's gonna knock out my Bronzor, but I'm able to go for Ice Shard to knock out the Toxicity, and his next Pokemon will be his Slowbro, which I go out to my Togedemaru as she doubles into her Sceptile for some reason, where it's just moving around. But eventually I'm able to catch the Sceptile, eventually knock him out with my Togedemaru chipping it down, and then eventually into my Sandslash. I was trying to predict the Slowbro, but works out. I made the Ice Shard to knock out a Sceptile, and then from there, Iron Head into the Slowbro, eventually chip him down. He's gonna knock me out, but I do have a Togedemaru in the back to knock out the Slowbro, and we're able to beat down Erica and get ourselves the 4th gym badge in the game. From there, we can move on and face off against Giovanni. And Giovanni, we have an Aegislash now. You guys know how much I love Aegislash. I'm not gonna use Aegislash for the entire game, so don't worry about that. But, you know, I do use Aegislash. We almost lost against Giovanni until we had Durant to clutch things up with Iron Head. This thing's so strong. From there, we're going to face off against the Lavender Tower and clear through the Lavender Tower pretty easily. We also get ourselves the Poke Flute, which is going to allow us to progress through the game. We also go into Silph where we face off against our rival in here, which Togedemaru is clutching up like crazy. I love Togedemaru. This thing's going to be on my team forever. We also used Togedemaru against Archer and Ariana, which is a pretty easy fight with our current team. We also get ourselves a Kingambit, which start cooking up Giovanni. Like, this might be not the best. I mean, look at it. I do so much damage against the Extra and the Garganak, which is so amazing. Like, normally I struggle against Giovanni. Not struggle at all. Here's the fight I struggle with. Against Chuck. Because Chuck gives me the Focus Sash, and normally Chuck is an easy fight, but against my Steel type team, I was struggling like crazy, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Eventually, after an actual hour of just playing through Chuck and over and over and over and over, eventually I'm able to beat him down, get ourselves the Focus Sash. But was it really worth it? I don't know. It's hard to say. From there, I can move on and face off against Sabrina. I can start the battle off against her. She has infinite Misty Terrain and infinite Trick Room, so I'm going to start the battle off against her using my Togedemaru and Empoleon against her Mega Camera and Tapu Fini. I'm able to go for a Zippy Zap against the Tapu Fini and Aqua Jet into the camera. It's going to knock out my Empoleon, which sucks, but I go out to my Kingambit. And from there, I can Zippy Zap, knock out the Tapu Fini, and then Sucker Punch to knock out the camera. Her next Pokemon will be a Magearna and Iron Hands. From there, I am going for a Zippy Zap and then Metal Burst into the Iron Hands to make sure I knock him out. So it works out pretty well for us. As from there, I'm going to go out to my Copperajah. From there, I can go for a Sucker Punch, knock out the Jellicent with my Kingambit. And also, I can go for a higher horsepower to almost knock out the Magearna. He's going to miss the Focus Blast, which allows me to go for a higher horsepower again. And then go for, I don't know why I went for Sucker Punch. But I am able to knock out the Magearna and then double attack into the Glacier as ready to beat down Sabrina. And yeah, pretty easy fight, not going to lie. From there, we're going to move out and face off against the Cycling Road, which isn't too difficult. We're able to clear through it pretty easily. And then from there, we can move out into Fuchsia City, where we face off against Brendan, our rival, which isn't too difficult. He has a bunch of legendary Pokemon, doesn't matter, as we're able to cook him up. From there, we also enter the Safari Zone, get ourselves the HM for Surf, Strength, and all that. We're also forced to rematch the first 3 gym leaders in the game, so we're going to face off against Brock first, and Brock isn't too difficult. As you can see, I have my Kingambit with a Focus Sash, made a Metal Burst, and knock out a Zygarde, and then from there, Extra with Sand Rush is going to kill everything else. So yeah, we're able to beat down Brock, and then against Misty, my Ferrothorn comes in clutch and knocks out most of the things on her team, and we're able to beat down Lieutenant Surge as well. He's not too difficult. As you can see, Wormadam actually comes clutch, and Kingambit again, that thing's so good. From there, we're going to move on and face off against Koga next. Koga is going to be the next gym leader. We're going to start the battle off against him using my Kingambit against his Tapu Fini. We're going to restart until he misses a Focus Blast, and then I'm able to knock him out in one shot. From there, his next Pokemon will be a Shiyu, which I stayed in. And then break his Focus Sash, go out to my Empoleon to knock him out with a Scald. His next Pokemon will be a Hoop Unbound, which I let him knock me out. And then I go out to my Togedemaru. For some reason, always on the first contact, I go out to my Togedemaru, I go for Spiky Shield. He attacks me, he doesn't attack me, and then he instantly switched out. And I'm able to catch the Toxicity with that. So, I mean, it works out pretty well as I'm able to Boom Burst and knock out a Toxicity. His next Pokemon will be a Hoopa Unbound. And then when I see him again, I'm able to nuzzle in the Hoopa Unbound as he misses a Focus Blast, and then I'm able to Zing Zap into him. And it works out pretty well as he does get flinch, and I'm able to knock him out in 2 shots. His next Pokemon will be a Crocodile, which I go for an Iron Head against him. He's going to knock out my Togedemaru as I do have an Aggron in the back with Metal Burst. Knocks out the Crocodile. His final Pokemon will be a Nidoking, which I do have my Bronze on with the right ability, Levitate this time. So I'm able to take a Thunderbolt and 2-shot into him with my Psychic Shield Bash, as we're able to beat down Koga and get ourselves the 6th Gym Badge in the game. Now that allows us to get some new stuff as we're able to get ourselves the Lucario Knight to Mega Evolve our Lucario. And now look at my moves. I have High Jump Kick and Bullet Punch on my Lucario, which with adaptability, that thing's gonna be broken. As we're able to destroy everything on Price's team, as we get ourselves a Choice Scarf, we also face off against Jasmine and beat her down, get ourselves a Choice Band, and face off against May, which this fight was actually kind of annoying. Lucky enough, H-Slash is there for us, as we face off against Blaine's Gym next. We face off against the trainer in Blaine's Gym, which isn't too difficult, and now we face off against Blaine himself, and this thing took a turn for the worse. It took me at least 30 minutes to face off against Blaine. Like, he is not a joke, especially when I have a full Steel type team. I even got an Aeron from the Rock Tunnel with Endeavor at level 30 to face off against Blaine. It didn't work out, but I was so desperate. So this is how we end up beating down Blaine. We start the battle off against Blaine using my Focus Sash Axojo. against his Sandy Shock, and I'm able to Bodos into his Sandy Shock, and then from there I'm able to Earthquake and knock him out. That forces in his that's gonna force in his Great Tusk, which I can switch out to as my Skarmory, which is giving me a special attacking Skarmory, which I go for an Air Cutter and almost knock out the Great Tusk with it. And then from there I can go out to my Kingambit to Sucker Punch and knock out the Great Tusk. His next opponent will be a Venusaur, which I go for a Sucker Punch, which was a horrible play. I go out to my Magnezone next, which lucky enough it goes for another Growth. From there I'm able to Mirror Coat into the Venusaur, and from there I can go out to my Togedemaru against the Walking Wake, and I'm able to go for a Nuzzle into the Walking Wake and eventually knock him out. His next opponent will be a Charizard, which I go out to my Excadrill to sack it, go out into my Kingambit to Sucker Punch into him, and then he's going to knock himself out with a Flare Blitz, as I'm able to knock out the Charizard. His final opponent will be a Ho-Oh, which I go for a Rock Slide against him, activate his Phoenix form as he knocks me out, and then go out to my Togedemaru to Zippy Zap into him, which has priority and always crits. I end up knocking out Blaine and finally beating down Blaine. That took a long time, as from there, we're also going to go into Cerulean Cave and then catch ourselves a Stakataka, which is going to be not used at all, but it's nice to have. From there, we're going to face off against Archer and Ariana, which is not a fun fight at all. This fight was so terrible for us. Like, we took so long to beat him because, like, there was no options for us. So we had to restart a lot of times. This took me up to 50 minutes of fighting against Archer and Ariana. So Eventually, we end up beating down Archer. We lose our Lucario, but we also have a Corviknight for the Buzzwole, which is the biggest threat on Ariana's team. We have a Corviknight to Brave Bird and crit it and knock out the Buzzwole as we're ready to beat down Archer and Ariana. And against Giovanni, it takes a little bit of time, but eventually, Lance finally Flamethrower the Genesect as we're ready to beat down the Mewtwo, and from there, we can move on and face off against the next gym leader in the game. We're going to face off against Claire. Now, Claire, I was going to look for Iron Head flinches, but then I got bored and I just went for it. So I killed the Shuckle, and then her next opponent will be Eternatus. I went for Bodos and an Earthquake to knock out the Eternatus. From there, her next opponent will be a Roaring Moon, which is going to knock out my Excadrill, which is fine. I go out to my Lucario next, which will Mach Punch into him. I don't know why I did that, but you know what? It worked out. I mean, with Sucker Punch, okay, well, it didn't work at all. So, Kingambit's able to knock out the Roaring Moon, and then her next Pokemon will be a Magearna. I go out to my Togedemaru, which, Ziggy... I'm just throwing away everything. But I go out into my Aegislash. Aegislash is able to knock out the Magearna with 2 Shadow Claws. And from there, her next Pokemon will be an Ultra Necrozma, which I go for a Shadow Sneak, and then from there, it's going to knock me out. But I do have a Kingambit in the back to Sucker Punch and knock out the Necrozma. Her next Pokemon will be a Duraludon, which it's going to knock out my Kingambit, but my Ferrothorn will Bodos into the Duraludon to eventually knock him out. As we're ready to beat down Claire, and yeah, pretty easy fight, not going to lie. From there, we can move out and face off against a rival in Route 22, which isn't too difficult. We also face off against a rival in Route 23 against Brendan, and he's an easy fight as well. From there, we're going to move out into the Pokemon League. We face off against this trainer. He gives me the Metagrossite, but I want to use Lucario Knight as my Mega Pokemon. We also talked to this NPC to let us know that Lorelei is using her Ice team for some reason, so I think my Steel team is going to have a field day with that. So I'm going to catch myself a Genesect, because Genesect is part Steel type. We also catch ourselves my beloved Jirachi, which, you guys know how it is. Jirachi is one of my favorite Pokemon all time, so we catch yourself with Jirachi. This is the last time I'll use Jirachi. I just want to have fun with it. And we also get ourselves some Choice Scarves, which will be very important. We also get ourselves a bunch of great moves. We're going to set up our moves for Jirachi and Genesect, but my team will be Kingambit, Ferrothorn, Lucario, Mega Lucario, Togedemaru, Genesect, and also my beloved Jirachi, and that will be my team for the rest of the game. So from there, we're going to move on and face off against the Elite Four. We're going to start the battle off against the Elite using both of my new Pokemon, my Jirachi and Genesect. From there, I'm going to go for an Ice Beam against the Landorus and then Iron Head into the Glaceon. It works out. Glaceon gets flinched, knock out the Landorus as well. Her next Pokemon will be a Tapu Fini, which I'm going to switch out my Genesect into my Ferrothorn and then Iron Head into the Glaceon. Doesn't work out as it's still able to get a Blizzard off. I'm able to Iron Head into Glaceon once again. And from there, my Jirachi survives. My Ferrothorn goes down though. As then I go out into my Togedemaru. Togedemaru is able to go for a Zippy Zap against the Tapu Fini. Iron Head into the Glaceon to knock him out. And then from there, I'm able to Iron Head into the Shinpao to flinch it and then knock out the Tapu Fini with the Zippy Zap. The next Pokemon will be a Kyurem White, and I'm able to go for an Iron Head into the Kyurem White and also Iron Head to the Shinpao. It doesn't get flinched, but battle should be over as I go out to my Mega Lucario. I'm able to knock out the Shinpao with my Zippy Zap and then High Jump Kick with my Lucario to knock out the Kyurem White, as her final Pokemon will be an Abomasnow, which of course I go for a High Jump Kick and then knock him out. So we end up beating down Lorelei pretty easily. From there, we're going to move out and face off against Bruno next. We're going to start the battle off against Bruno using my Jirachi, flinching down the Infernape to deny rocks, and then end up knocking him out. His next opponent will be a Zacian, which I go out into my Ferrothorn. It's going to take a close combat, not too well, as it goes down. Go out to my Genesect next to Flamethrower and one-shot the Zacian, which feels so satisfying. From there, his next one will be a Necrozma Dust, which I go for a Flamethrower. He's going to Earthquake and knock me out. I do have my Kingambit in the back, which will Sucker Punch and knock him out. His next one will be an Iron Valiant, which I go out into my Jirachi, which one-shot it. Oh, it doesn't one, two-shot it with Iron Head. But I decided to switch out for some reason. I switched out into my Togedemaru and catch the Lucario on accident, so that wasn't really planned. So from there, I'm kind of confused. I go for a Zippy Zap, eventually knock down the Lucario to low HP and force him out to his Zeraora. Which from there, I'm gonna go into my Jirachi, and the Jirachi is able to go for Zen Headbutts against the Zeraora until it knocks me out. Go out to my Kingambit next, and I'm able to Sucker Punch and knock out the Kingambit, the Iron Valiant, and also the Lucario. So Kingambit clutched up at the end there against Bruno, and from there we can move out, face off against Agatha. And Agatha, of course, you know how to do. We're gonna restart into the Iron Head, flinch down the Crocodile to deny rocks because, you know, a lot of my Pokemon have Sturdy, as in my Togedemaru has Sturdy, but you know, it's important to have that, as I'm able to knock out the Crocodile. She goes out to her Calyrex next, which I go out into my Kingambit. Kingambit is able to go for a knockoff and knock out the Calyrex. Her next opponent will be a Yveltal, which sacrificed my Kingambit, so I go out into my Lucario, which will high jump kick, not knock out the Yveltal, but unfortunately gets burned in the process. So I got a high jump kick and knock out the Yveltal at least, and my Lucario will go down, but it works out as I go out into my Genesect against her Mega Mewtwo X. I Flamethrower into the Mewtwo into low HP, as I'm able to go out to my Jirachi next, which will Zen Headbutt into the Victini, go out into my Togedemaru, and I'm able to Nuzzle into the Victini to paralyze it. And that point, I'm able to Iron Head into the Jirachi and basically just knock him out. I went to my Ferrothorn because thinking like, I kind of felt bad just cheesing it, but honestly, I had no choice. I'm just gonna flinch down the Victini and eventually knock out the Victini with 6 flinches in a row. I also knock out the Flutter Mane in one shot, and our final Pokemon will be a Mewtwo, which I knock out in one shot with a crit as well. So we end up being down. We always beat down Agatha like this. From there, I'm able to move out and face off against Lance next. I'm able to flinch down the Glimmora and deny hazards. Actually, it says of Toxic Spikes, but it doesn't really matter. As from there, he's going to switch out into his Dialga, which I'm able to get 3 Iron Heads off against into Aurora Times Me. And from there, he's going to Aurora Time Me out into my Togedemaru. I'm able to Nuzzle into the Dialga. And from there, I could Zippy Zap into his flinches. He goes down to low HP. He Aurora Times Me into my Lucario. And then from there, I could just high jump kick and knock out the Dialga. His next one will be at Arceus Fairy, which I go for a Meteor Mash, survive a Flamethrower, and knock out the Arceus. His next one will be a Dragonite, which from there, I go for a Mach Punch. He outspeeds me. He's going to knock me out. It's kind of annoying, but I go out into my Genesect against the Dragonite, and from there, I'm able to Ice Beam into him, force out the Melmetal, which I didn't predict, but he goes out to the Melmetal. I go out to my Ferrothorn against the Melmetal, and it walls it completely. From there, he switched out to his Rayquaza. I was thinking about using Explosion, but I decided to switch out to my Togedemaru, which from there, I'm a sack, go out to my Genesect to Ice Beam into him, and almost knocks him out. I got Frostbite on him, as I go out to my Jirachi to Iron Head and knock out the Rayquaza. I go out to my Ferrothorn against the Melmetal, and this thing just walls it completely. Look at this. He goes down to low HP. It's going to eventually knock me out, but he's at 1 HP. I'm able to Iron Head, knock out the Melmetal, and also knock out the Dragonite. No, he's going to knock me out. Dragonite knocks out my Jirachi, so it's all on Kingambit, as I'm able to Sucker Punch and knock out the Dragonite, and from there, he's going to switch out to his Glimmora. I one-shot it with Sucker Punch as ready to beat down Lance, and this Elite Four is actually pretty easy. So from there, we're going to move on and face off against Blue, the champion in the game. We'll start the battle off against him using my Togedemaru, which I'm able to go for a Nuzzle and paralyze down the Kyogre. I was hoping for a flinch with Zing Zap, but it doesn't work. He's going to knock me out, which sucks, but I'll go out to my Lucario to Mach Punch and knock out the Kyogre. Actually go for a Meteor Mash to see if I get an attack boost, but from there he's going to switch out to his Eternus G-Max, which I go out to my Jirachi. Jirachi's able to take the Thunder, and then from there I go for a Zen Headbutt. As he goes out to his Arceus Steel, I go out to my Ferrothorn, which actually works out as I'm able to Bulldoze him twice. And then from there, he's going to go down to low HP. I go out into my Lucario, which will Mach Punch and knock out the Arceus Steel. He then goes out to his Eternus G-Max. I go for an Ice Punch. Unfortunately, I get paralyzed, so he's going to knock me out with a Draco Barrage. But I go out into my Jirachi, which will Zen Headbutt into him, two-shot him, as he's going to switch out into his Xerneas. And I flinch him twice. He's going to get Geomancy up anyway, so it's kind of annoying. I go out to my Genesect, which will avoid the Focus Blast the first time. And then from there, I could survive a Focus Blast, Iron Head into Xerneas, and knock him out. I was thinking about Sucker Punching him with my Kingambit, but it works out this way. Swamper's going to knock me out, but I'm able to go out to my Jirachi to Zen Headbutt into him, and eventually 3 flinches in a row knocks out the Swampert, which is so annoying. But also, I don't get a flinch off against the Walking Wake, so it's only up into my Kingambit, but I'm able to knock off into the Walking Wake, and then Sucker Punch to knock him out. And his final opponent will be Eternus, which I end up going for a Sucker Punch, knocking out the Eternus, and we end up being down Blue. and ending off our challenge with my King Gambit at 1 HP is perfect. So we end up beating down the challenge. Honestly, this run was a mixed bag. Like there's a lot of trainers in this game that gave me a lot of hard times and kept me stuck for a long time, like Blaine, like Archer, and Ariana. Like those fights were really difficult, but the entire Elite Four very easy. Like I guess because I had a lot of luck on my side with obviously Jirachi, but as you can see, my playtime is not that high. I literally was just stuck on a few trainers, but those trainers took a long time of the actual time, so this doesn't get recorded on the in-game clock. But honestly, it was pretty fun, minus the whole getting stuck on a lot of bosses, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, that'll be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Anyways, my name is Ben Alpha, and I hope you guys all have a great day, and I'm out. Peace.